The voice is growing louder and louder and louder. Fix your game, Ninja Kiwi. The game is dying due to your negligence. The game is becoming a laughingstock again. Maybe not because of the server downtimes anymore, but the balance changes are getting ridiculous. Over the last few days, I've been grinding this game because I haven't been doing any serious gameplay here since Season 2, and then after that, I was getting busy and couldn't keep up. So now that I've gotten back on the bandwagon for a short time, I've been reminded of how much the meta sucked. It has improved over the last few updates, which is good, but it's still in a bad spot. Now, there's multiple different parts to this I feel, ranging from the towers and heroes to the Bloons sets, and in this video, I'll go into a further explanation on what towers need changing, but before I go any further, I've been amazed at the recent meteoric rise of views on my most recent BTD6 video. It was impromptu, but I felt that it was the perfect opportunity to rack up some more views with the recent discovery. Though I do plan on having a full-scale version of that video out shortly, which goes into detail on the new free play. But it would be better if you subscribe to my channel to give these videos even more exposure, because 96% of my viewers are not subscribed. I imagine a lot of these individuals are probably browsing these videos as a guest. I just often so I can relate. And forgetting to log in to subscribe to my video. Even if it is only a minor inconvenience, it still helps the channel grow. I'll try to stay informed as much as I can with Ninja Kiwi related content, so stay tuned for more. In addition to talking about the heroes and towers that need changing, I'm going to also be talking about other game mechanics that need changing. In a way, this is an expansion of my last video, but I'll also put parts of the other Battles 2 videos in here too. I might not be playing a lot of Battles 2, but I'm watching a lot of Battles 2 gameplay and feedback videos. And I'm certainly no stranger to ISAP's latest videos, which have actually propelled my videos quite a bit in recent weeks. And actually, I'll begin there. ISAP has been talking about how this game doesn't have any real new content and is not differentiated enough from Bloons TD Battles Mobile to enjoy playing. Arenas? Check. Speed battles? Check. Play with fire? Check. Random towers? Check. Hotel? Trivago. Okay, you get the point. You would think with a year of this game being out, there would be a real attempt to add something unique to this game, but no! Ninja Kiwi said in their latest update video that this update was going to be the last time there will be a content update for this game in 2022. Perhaps it's good to get our festive heroes a month earlier than anticipated, and I welcome this change just for the fact that it has some real opportunity to change the meta. I would have preferred this instead of rolling the dice and randomly changing the tower's upgrades to maybe get something going without introducing a new hero, which Ninja Kiwi appears to be doing right now. Either that or copy-paste BTD6 changes, which no one asked for. Camo priority is nice though, really the only meaningful change from BTD6. That's partly why I disliked the 1.6 update, by the way. The balance changes there seemed insignificant since the meta towers were mostly unaffected and have been for months now, and for a brief time, most heroes became more inferior than they already were. Personally, if I were them, I'd make sure the tower and hero analytics are tracked for all Hall of Masters games, and then buff the lowest hero and 2 or 3 towers, and then nerf the top hero and 2 or 3 towers. Granted, there are balance surveys that a Reddit user has done in the past, but sadly they are nowhere near as receptive as the Reddit posts themselves are. I would know. I've done some myself and ran into the same problem. I do the BTD6 update tier lists, and more recently put up a poll on the Battles 2 subreddit about how long the seasons should be. And even though I got mostly people wanting shorter seasons, this excludes a huge portion of the player base because most of these players probably don't use Reddit. From seasons 3 to 8, seasons went for a fixed length of 6 weeks. Season 8 ended on November 9th, which means that Season 9 would end on December 21st if it continued on this system, which is a problem because Ninja Kiwi would be on vacation since they typically get their last blog post of the year out on the 3rd Friday of December. And of course, we don't want to have a repeat of what happened last time with the Sabo, Laser Shock, and Sticky Bomb bugs with something similar in the future and have nothing done about it for weeks. In fact, I warned Ninja Kiwi about this and sent them an extensive email to Ninja Kiwi support expressing my concerns about this game, and I mentioned this in it. So instead of doing what I wanted, They decided to extend the season through the holiday break instead of doing one last set of balance changes right before they go on break. It doesn't have to include a new map or hero, just a simple balance change list would be the bare minimum to at least keep the game afloat, but they couldn't even be arsed to do that, it seems. So at this point, the rest of the Battles 2 community just has to hope and pray that there aren't any game-breaking bugs that were added in this update, because they won't do a damn thing about it until the new year. Perhaps there is a silver lining here. It would allow those who are falling behind in school to catch up with their studies, since they don't have to play this garbage during the update. Good opportunity also for those trying to get their social life back on track again too, but that's not good for business. Trust me, I do want Ninja Kiwi to be successful, but I've lost hope after seeing mistake after mistake being made. Maybe I have exceptionally more criticism of them because I've been playing their games since 2009, long before most of my viewers have heard of them, so I've seen better times before. I'll admit, the emotional attachment has hit me harder than I thought it would, since this is a part of my childhood that I'm speaking of. I'll go off another tangent here. The ELU system, or what's actually a glyco system, since there are more variables involved in determining a player's score. I have some code of a profile from when the game first came out, and there's a deviation and volatility variable here, both of which are present in the glyco system and not in ELU. So the next time someone talks about ELO, tell them it's actually glyco. Or don't, there are bigger issues on the line here. We don't know too much about how the score decay works in this game other than the fact that after 3 days of inactivity, your score starts to drop. In addition, when you first join the Hall of Masters, your score is set to 3,500, regardless of where it is relative to all the other players. So you could end up in a scenario where you join the Hall of Masters at the last minute and be in the top 100 without playing any matches. What kind of sense does that make? Unless there's only 200 players or less that can make it into the Hall of Masters, this shouldn't be a thing. At least top 10% medals are impossible to obtain now, which really shows how much the player base has dropped relative to its peak. A whopping 93%. Why can't you see your placement below the top 100? Maybe Ninja Kiwi is afraid that it'll expose their game even further, but it is still handy to know. Either that, or it should show the score needed to get the next threshold if you are below the top 100, which is good enough on its own. As for the placements themselves, here's what I'd propose. When you first get to Hall of Masters, you will be placed in the top 50%, whatever the score is at that point. Still starts at 3,500 for those that start in Hall of Masters. Score decay is dependent on where you are relative to the player in last place. If you are in first place, the decay is 4% of your current score for each inactive day, which stacks multiplicatively, and goes down the further you are down the leaderboard. So if you're in the top 25%, the decay is only 3%, top 50 is 2%, all the way down to no decay in last place. It's simple and it gets the job done. Another big concern is the flagging, and this new season is already off to a terrible start with players getting false flagged within the first 6 hours. I've briefly touched on this in my last Battles 2 video, but basically if you match up with the same person 4 times in a row and lose each time, you get flagged. If you surrender too many times, you also get flagged, though it's believed to be linked to the previous scenario of lose to the same player 4 times in a row. Both of these triggers were put in place because people used to farm XP by getting to round 6 repeatedly, then surrendering each time. The fact that Ninja Kiwi still has not removed these triggers indicates that they still don't like XP farming and are not willing to admit it publicly. Now I should note, only the loser gets flagged, not the winner. In version 1.4.1, this affected private matches as well as normal matches, but since then it has only affected normal matches, mostly on ranked because the majority of players are there. And with a continuously shrinking player base, expect this issue to become more and more frequent. Disconnects I can get by the flagging, because it is annoying having to repeatedly face off against someone who gets a bad map and then disconnects. Since the last video, I've thought of a way to effectively implement a flagging system for this. First things first, remove the checks for surrenders and lost chains altogether. Next, keep track of when you disconnected from the game after it started. Finally, when the player does get flagged, they are unable to play ranked matches, and they can only match up with other flagged players, just like it currently does. Currently, Monkey Bank is more or less a poor man's version of Marketplace that essentially functions the same, but is less efficient. In Bloons TD Battles 1, the Monkey Bank path also adds passive income at the end of each round, and giving Marketplace this property should also provide some ambiguity so the two paths have some competition. Central markets are unable to fully utilize their maximum effect due to the smaller space in this game on most maps, and they're rather underpowered otherwise. This Merchantman income buff, alongside the previous buff, should put it in a more balanced spot overall. The Tier 5 farms in general are also overpowered. Bottom Path Village isn't very attractive at the moment, and could benefit from more synergy from other towers. Taking Bloons TD6's Monkey City is a good way to do that. Base Monkeyopolis is too weak at the point that you are able to afford it. It should be comparable to BRF at the base level while still providing the extra reward for having farm as a second tower slot alongside other towers that can benefit from the Monkey City synergy. The problem was the Tier 5 farms being overpowered, not Overclock being too good with farms. Just Monkey Wall Street and Overclock is a broken synergy, and the 1.6.1 update was a half-assed fix for it. Millpath Engineer is still in a meh spot where it is now, and so is the top path, and these changes should bring them more in line. Early game Dartling Gunner is just busted with Double Pierce. Hydra Rocket Pods were also inexplicably buffed in this game and should be toned down. Similarly, Buckshot and Bats shouldn't serve as cheap crutches for your defense. The Quincy's don't keep up that well. Even with the buff in this update, they're still quite weak. Quincy needs a buff to handle grouped Camel Purple rushes nicely. I've already talked about the open balance changes in my last video, and I still stand by 100% of what I said there. So I'm not going to rehash it here. Nor am I going to be rehashing the casual and ranked battle reworks. So I'm going to jump ahead a little here and go to the next part. Bloons Summons. Compared to BTD Battles 1, the eco penalties are much less harsh here, which is a good thing. But it's also too easy for players to snowball their income to send blimp rushes en masse since they're also cheaper compared to the first game. Mid-game rushes could be tweaked too to help eco players keep up. One last thing. The new season cosmetics system is good. The only issue I have with it though is the Hero Showcase being merged with the regular seasonal cosmetics, which seems awkward to me. Hopefully there is an option to purchase the Hero Showcase cosmetics separately going forward, and the older season bling will be used in place of it since you can no longer buy the older season packs in this update. If you already have those cosmetics, you get monkey money instead.